What is happening, guys? Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On this week's show, we're going to figure out how you can take all of those injuries and turn them into trades. And I'll tell you who I'll never trade away because he's back with me again. It's 2 weeks in a row. He is, in fact, the man of the hour and the man with the power. Jerry Sinclair, buddy, how are you?
I am good. That's because no one is dumb enough to deal with you every single week, but I am happy to do it. I'm excited to be here. And once again, the bronze level host on the Dynasty WarZone. Get to Mr. Gold Medal.
Well, and we have someone who's only got to put up with me for 1 week. And that is my good friend, let me rephrase that. Our good friend, Alan Seslowsky. You know Alan from Rotowire. He is like the Theo Grimminger of Rotowire. That's the best way I can describe him. He's a member of the FSWA, and he hosts many Dynasty podcasts, including co-host of the Sonic Truth. Back again, our old buddy Alan. Alan, what's going on, man?
I think I forgot to pay my dues at the FSWA. They might kick me out. Actually, you have to pay your annual dues to be part of that. So, yeah, I should probably take that down. No, guys, I like being with you guys. I like this show better than that Sonic Truth. This is like way better, this setup. It's funny. A couple weeks ago, guys, you guys were on. I forget what you were talking about, but I just put it on. And even my wife was like, no, keep that on, because she plays fantasy football casually. And but she didn't even know you were talking about fantasy football. She liked how you guys were interacting. So we actually had you on during dinner.
Well, big week in the podcast world. And we're not gonna get into something as divisive as politics. But did you guys, I know Alan did, Joe Rogan is hosting presidential candidate Trump on Friday.
I hope they put it up Friday. Yeah.
He usually does. I don't subscribe to Rogan. I only listen depending on who the guest is, like especially MMA guys. I could really care less about the content, although I'll listen. I want to see what kind of numbers in terms of downloads and viewers and
want to make a prediction?
Engagement, because he's got 14 million subs on YouTube and like 17, 18 million on his podcast. I think it could be the most downloaded podcast of all time.
Yeah, he does. He said about 10 million average. I mean, that's across high and low. 10 million audio downloads an episode.
Which is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so what do you think? Let's make a prediction on how many downloads for that episode.
Oh, I'm going to go 100 million.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. No. It's the Howard Stern effect. And I'll tell you what if you've seen the movie Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie, he's like, people tuned in like longer because they wanted to hear what he had to say. Even people who have never ever listened to a full episode of Joe Rogan is going to listen to that podcast. But we're podcasters, we're content creators. But I jokingly called you the Theo Grimminger because Theo hosts 19,000 podcasts. The man's amazing. He doesn't sleep. He runs on pure coffee and who knows what else.
I told him he's got to slow down or else he's going to be dead in like 3 years.
He's going to stroke out by the time he's like 45. So, but what's going on with you guys over at Rotowire? You mentioned you're doing some behind the scenes stuff. You're doing some stuff with basketball. What's going on with Rotowire?
Yeah, as far as like my own stuff, the only thing that I'm out there promoting is we do a Sunday show on Sirius XM. So if you still have satellite radio in the car or in the app or whatever, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. But like my day-to-day stuff, dude, is like I just do all like the behind help. I'm the video manager. I manage people, make sure that they don't screw around. So yeah, just trying to be the glue guy.
You could have as many as 3 people under you, if you know what that reference is from.
That's Office Space, right?
That is Office Space. That's the Bobs. Mm-hmm. And but speaking of 3-man groups, you were one of the co-hosts of the Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast last year, and I thought you did an excellent job. I thought the chemistry between you and Matt and Theo, I thought it was tremendous. And that's a very big compliment because while I've never interacted with Nate Liss, the chemistry between Matt and Nate when they were first running the Sonic Truth was tremendous. I thought I'm not going to say better, but I thought you were equally entertaining. So
you brought up Howard Stern, and I interrupted you, but like you remember, like the Jackie thing was great, and then they
Jackie the Joke Man,
right? Then they had like an Artie years, so it was like it's different.
So, but that doesn't answer. Are you coming back?
I hate that fucking show. I hate doing it. I hate being on it. Honestly, it's like it's torture for me to do it, but I am going to come back and do it.
That's great because
glutton for punishment. I could tell you play fantasy football.
Yeah, I love that because from last year when you guys did the show, I get the alert because I subscribe to Player Profiler on YouTube. I subscribe on podcasts. You should too if you're listening to this. And whenever I got to go live, and you guys always recorded somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah, and we have this giant walking trail at work, and I get that alert, and I'd immediately hop up, throw my phone in my pocket, and I would watch the Sonic Truth. Really excited to have you back.
Yeah, again, it's horrible. I really do hate doing the show though. Like I don't like it. There's no enjoyment in it for me. I'm not kidding. Like it's horrendous. But
Matt's going to beat you up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean but
you have the best stories.
I appreciate that you enjoy it. I know there's people enjoy it, so we're doing it. But anyway, I think Friday, November 6th, we're doing one at noon. So
I cannot wait. And Jerry, you're just going to have to endure this part. We're going to talk baseball for about 3 minutes. Now, Alan is a native New Yorker, now living in the sunny state of Jacksonville, tax shelter. I don't know, maybe I don't want to speak out of school, but you're a native New Yorker. So my first question is, were you rooting for the Mets or are you a Yankees guy? Mets or Yankees?
Yeah. So Jerry, are you guys familiar with like how all the fandom in New York is divided up, like which teams are aligned?
No idea.
So generally, if you're a New York Jets football fan, you like the Mets and you like the Nets. Right? When they were the New Jersey Nets. And if you like the Giants, generally you're a Yankees fan and you are, what did I miss here? Yankees and you're a Knicks fan or a Knicks fan, right? So that's generally how it goes, right? I'm on the Jets, Nets, and Mets side. So it's because it's where you're raised. It's what cable was pushed into your house when you were a kid. That has a lot to do with it, so that's how it ends up being like that. So,
Islanders or Rangers?
Yeah, Islanders go with the Jets. All the losing teams go together.
Well, all the blue bloods go together. All the not blue bloods go together. All right, last baseball related question, and we'll get into the dynasty stuff, the stuff these good folks tuned in for. So you're a Mets guy, but it's Yankees versus Dodgers. A couple of blue, and for you non-hardcore baseball fans, this is the equivalent of the Green Bay Packers playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's about the best I could give you, like two old school blue blood franchises, unless you have a better one.
I was going to say Celtics Lakers.
Celtics Lakers is would be the basketball equivalent. But who are you rooting for and why?
Well, I think that this applies. This is not a baseball thing, right? This is like you want the team that beat you to win the championship. I know not everybody thinks that way, but I don't want to beat up my team and then lose in the next round, right? You want to be beat by the champ. So you could at least say, hey, that was the best team. So I will be rooting for the Dodgers, not the Yankees.
All right. What about you, Jerry?
Well, I'm not a baseball guy, but I am a Detroit guy. And since they lost to the Guardians and the Yankees beat the Guardians, I want them to win because they got all the redemption that I wanted. But also, I never like to root for the, that juggernaut, the Alabamas, the Yankees, the Lakers. Right. I'm a hipster hater for the most part, but because they did the Guardians dirty, I'm here for it.
And I'm not going to change hats mid-show, but I'm rooting for the Dodgers, even though it pains me because I'm a Red Sox fan. And as a Red Sox fan, I just simply say, fuck the Yankees. But I'll tell you what you will want in your life. It's the Dynasty Dominator.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
There he is, our old pal, the Podfather. Now, Alan, I know you listen to the show. I know you're a fan of the show. You're going to help us do good people, bad tweets.
That's what you guys were talking about. You were talking about good people, bad tweets. When my wife heard it, she was like, "What is?" Whoa, she was interested in this.
Well,
she was interested in this. Yes.
Well, she'll like this one because we got another good customer, and this one has since been deleted. But thank God for fantasy receipts and screenshots. This one was from a gentleman named Nick D'Angelo, and he's at FF Formula Nick.
Okay.
And he posted Alvin Kamara has formally requested a trade, and the Saints are headed for a rebuild with an extremely aged roster. He goes into his cap hit. He's like, our sources confirm the following teams have contacted the show more, and like the tweet with, because he's verified, and it had like a list of teams, and Alvin Kamara himself retweeted this and simply said incorrect. ... Now,
yeah,
I saw this and I'll throw it to you guys. I was just like, and we talked about Jesse Morse last week, and that guy's a true dumbass. But
what do you think it's a shtick with him? Well, it's okay.
I hope it's a shtick with him. With this guy, this is just a lie. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Because no, Jerry, you have a good bullshit detector here. I could tell. Do you think that the Jesse Morse thing is a shtick? Like, you know how the counselor, like, I think the fantasy football counselor is hysterical because it's a put on.
You think he's created a character? I don't know if the doctor is. I think because he's a doctor. I mean, not to disparage the doctors of this world. I mean, I'm living with a person that's going to be a doctor of animals, so I shouldn't say that, or I'm going to get divorced. But I just think he's so far up his own ass that that is the personality that he has. However, for this one, we see this kind of stuff all the time. The check marks, you go for engagement, you try to get money, by all means, brothers, sisters, loved ones. If you can get the money, but those are just immediate mutes for me. I'm not the blocking type, but I will mute the hell out of you. And if I want to make fun of it, I will take a screenshot of it and then I will comment on it because I'm not giving you money for it. But get bodied by Alvin Kamara himself. I love to see that.
You mentioned the counselor. I do believe he is. I believe that's a character.
Yeah, right.
I like, did you see when Seth Rollins from the WWE was at the Colts game and he let T.Y. Hilton throw him over? That's him in character. I don't believe whatever his real name is. I don't believe that's who he is. I will say
it's brilliant. The character
with the counselor, I believe it's a character. But I will share a funny story with you, and this is just my opinion. I thought the Podfather. I thought Matt Kelly was a character.
It is. He puts it on a little bit. Come on.
But then you meet Matt, and Matt's very genuine, but in a good way. Matt is as hardworking, as nice, as funny. So it's not a character, which makes me concerned for Jesse Morse, because if you're not a character, then you're really a dumbass.
He loves that. I don't know if he hears this podcast, but like, I'm sure. Actually, he's the type of guy that probably
searches his name.
AI search for anyone.
Yeah. Please search anything that says Jesse Morse. But anyway, we should be giving the business to Nick. But Nick, you're why that fantasy football content people aren't taken seriously.
No,
you make up stories.
He's just no one cares about that dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just got it wrong. There's a reason why Adam Schefter shams in basketball. Why even Rappaport, and what's the dude's name with the shaved head on Fox? Glazer. There's a reason why those guys are like super GOAT status. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but see, he stole my time because I saw this and before.
Well, you're the dope that fell for it.
No. I instantly had to go to Schefter and Rappaport.
Yeah,
and all the aggregators, and I'm like, I'm trying to validate it because this is the first one that pops up in your feed because it's getting tons of engagement.
Go to Dobb before you go to this dude.
Dude, there's another dumbass, but that's a different story for a different day. We're going to talk dynasty trade targets, but we got to hear from Uncle Dana.
I'm going to tell you this. It was a huge fucking clusterfuck. Yeah. Completely fucking irresponsible, a shit show, dangerous, stupid, irresponsible, and just completely fucking ridiculous.
No
I
one
would love
says
to
it
know
better
what
than
the
Dana.
context was that. Like that's
I don't know. I don't know. I know the one where it says you can't be that fucking stupid was referring to a guy who was giving inside information on fighters' health for gambling purposes.
because the one you just played, that is like what your reaction was when I told you last week that I thought we were starting at 8:00 my time, and
No,
it was 8:00 your
no,
time.
no. This is what I thought last week when you thought we were starting at 8:00 Central.
Stupid? What's the matter with you? I apologize. What's the matter with you? Sorry. What the fuck is the matter with you?
That was what I actually felt last week.
When we logged on before Randy went live, he gave me such a dad look.
I am guilty of being a dad, but another rough week of injuries, guys. Including some guys that had been absolutely killing it for us, like Chris Godwin was on a true, renaissance to his wide receiver 1 year. DK Metcalf, hopefully that one's not too bad. Chris Olave had the concussion. Mike Evans came out today that Mike Evans will not be back before their week 11 bye. So you're talking week 12 at the earliest. And that just doubles down. I mean, we're supposed to be getting guys like TJ Hawkinson back and Cooper Kupp. But the point is all these injuries create an opportunity for trades. And a lot of times I didn't want this to come off as like contenders only, because as a non-contender, you can use this information in reverse. It's, hey, I'm going to go talk to the Mike Evans GM. Maybe he's contending and maybe he needs a piece. And we're going to talk about relatively cheap guys that maybe they're coming to the tail end of their career. Maybe their situation's popping, but they're not as expensive in a dynasty league anymore. And we're going to start with the QB position. And I'm going to start with our guest. Alan, you can go buy or sell, give me an example of a QB that you think could be a injury-inspired trade target, or a guy maybe you're looking to trade to an injured GM.
Right. And I would add to that, like someone that's got like the benching threat, right? Like, Will Levis, I sold them a couple weeks ago. Like that's kind of the same thing, right? Like their dynasty value is about to die. I mean, but I think right now, for some reason, I have a couple teams that are like in that third, fourth place range. And I just scroll down the roster and I see JJ McCarthy there. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this? Right. Like maybe I lost Deshaun Watson. So I think JJ McCarthy, this is the guy I wanted to talk about with you guys. Like, is he just basically like having like a 25 first on your bench? Is that what it is? Right. Like, is that the like I traded away before he got benched, JJ McCarthy, and I got hosed. I traded for Justin Fields when he was looking like the rest of the year starter. Bad trade. So what do you think is probably a better use? Because I want to trade my JJ McCarthy's in those teams where I'm still in the top 6. Because I'm not like, I don't care if I'm ever in the middle. Like, I know that's like dynasty advice. Like, don't ever be in the middle. Like, get me in the playoffs. I'll get lucky. If you win one game, you're in the money rounds.
Jerry, you want to go first? You want me to go?
I think getting rid of JJ McCarthy is probably a good idea. I think I've got at least 1 or 2 leagues where I'm sort of in that same exact situation where I'm like 4-3 or I'm 5-2. Maybe my points are middling. And I've got someone like Aaron Rodgers or something. Like I thought I was going to contend, so he's my QB2. JJ's doing nothing for me. So I'm with you, Alan. I think that's a good take.
But trade for what?
I would trade. I would
another QB.
If I have JJ McCarthy, depending on whether I'm contending or not, if I'm contending and I have JJ McCarthy, I'm going to go out and figure out how to get Sam Darnold. But if I'm not contending, I'm going to figure out how to send JJ McCarthy to the Sam Darnold owner, because that's insurance in case Sam Darnold but you're also, if you're acquiring JJ McCarthy right now and you have Sam Darnold, you're on a free roll, because if anything happens to Sam Darnold in the offseason, JJ McCarthy gets a job. If Sam Darnold signs an extension, then you got like a potential Jordan Love. But this quarterback class, this is why I don't mind going to get JJ McCarthy. This upcoming college quarterback class, with the exception of Shedeur Sanders, I have questions. I don't even have questions about him, but I have severe questions about.
But that's right now. That's right now.
Right.
But right before the draft, all that shit changes.
Yeah, but I'm not falling for that banana in the tailpipe. Right. But yeah, I could see where JJ McCarthy has a big market in the, because if he doesn't, Sam Darnold does. So I would try to do that. I like Matt Stafford, getting ready to get Puka back, getting ready to get Cooper Kupp back. I know he's not the greatest tight end in the world. At some point, they'll get Tyler Higbee back. And even at 2-5, 3-4, whatever their record is, they're going to be in contention because that division is so fraudulent. You know, you've got the Niners who are below 500, the Cardinals below 500, and then you got the Seahawks at 4-3. That division's still wide open. So, and I think Stafford's going to play for a couple more years.
Hey,
so.
Jerry, how many touchdowns do you think Stafford has this year? Passing touchdowns?
Not many.
6?
What do you think, Jerry? He said 6.
Who could he have thrown them to?
Come on, you're not buying a combo
I'll go 5, just so I'm closer to Randy. Than Randy.
It's 3. He has 3 passing touchdowns this year.
That's brutal.
I mean, he's been throwing to crumb bums and shoe clerks though in his defense.
But how many of those guys have went down at the 1 or the 2 yard line, which kind of explains all the touchdown variance that's worked in Kyron Williams fashion?
I mean, it's not variance. He's a touchdown scorer at this point, right?
You know, he was faded so hard. I don't want to turn this into a Kyron. He was faded so hard. And it's like, I know people hate coaching-centric analysis, but Sean McVay's a creature of habit. He rode the wheels off of Todd Gurley. And when he finally found someone that was making his offense go, he's not going away from Kyron Williams or anybody else. What do you think about Geno Smith?
Yeah. And by the way, me pointing out the 3 touchdowns, guys, was affirming your buy low. It wasn't like saying screw you.
So you're saying the variance is going to come back, and he's
getting his weapons back.
Well, yeah, he's getting everybody back, and I think that's good for everybody. How long do you think he plays? How many more? Jerry, you're the original Lions fan. How many more years? He came out in 2010 or 11, so he's
16 was 2008, so he came out in the 2009 draft.
Yeah,
okay. How much longer does he play?
He's 37 years old, right?
I don't know. We have the internet. So, but Jerry, how many more years?
He'll be 37 in February.
Okay.
I think he'll play probably 3 more years. Whether he'll be good for any of them, I don't know that for sure, though. We got this rumor that Cooper Kupp is going to get traded, but I mean, I'm not necessarily buying that. But if they struggle through the remainder of the year and they start it again next year, are we confident that that is the core of that team that they're going to want to build around in the future? I don't think so.
Yeah. I think they'll continue to add to the wide receiver group because Kupp can't stay healthy. No. Puka's going into year 2, so he's plenty young. But this is a team that feels like they're always going to be in contention, or they're going to try to be in contention.
Yeah.
I don't mind him. And I brought up Geno in the same division. What are your thoughts on Geno, Alan? Especially for Dynasty. Like in redraft, he's doing great.
Yeah, I mean, he's leading the league in what, yards and passing attempts, guys, something like that, or he's in the top 2 or 3.
Is he really? That's wild.
Yeah, he just doesn't get like more than 1 touchdown a game. That's the problem. I mean, that's why he's QB 10 and not QB 6, right? Because if you look down the game log, against Atlanta, he did have 2 passing touchdowns. Before that, it's 1 in every game. The yardage is there. He's averaging well over 300 yards a game. Like I said, he's leading a bit. So, yeah, I mean, Geno's one of those guys where, like, he's buyable. You know, like, there was a point where you'd have to, if you lost Tua a couple weeks ago and you were, like, in second place, right? Like, were you giving your first for him? That was the price. It's not comfortable to pay it.
I don't think you got to pay a first for Geno, do you? Could you get him for 2 seconds in a super flex? Could you get him for a 25 and a 26 second?
It might be hard because the person that has Geno is probably winning just enough that they don't want to get rid of him.
That's very fair. We'll go back to JJ McCarthy for a second. I don't know that he's an injury fueled buy, but he's someone who people have been down upon. But I will tell you to look at his game logs with and without Tank Bigsby, and that's Trevor Lawrence. When he has a real running game, and that's not a shot at Travis Etienne, but when he has that, and that's not just Jacksonville. I mean, look at the teams with good running games. Look at what Kansas City's getting out of the corpse of Kareem Hunt. Look at the difference between the Houston Texans offense with and without Joe Mixon this year. So these quarterbacks in this day and age, when they have a healthy running game, look how much better Tua got when they added an offensive-minded head coach who was a running game guy. They brought in Achane. They brought in Mostert. So people are still super down on Trevor Lawrence. What do you have to add to J.J. McCarthy to go get Trevor Lawrence right now, Jerry?
Probably not a ton. because I think the narrative on Trevor Lawrence is that he's always going to be boring as hell. He's fine. He's a QB2. I think that's what we said when we talked about him last week. Yeah, he's fine. He's a QB2. Nobody gets excited for him anymore. And at some point, JJ McCarthy will become the starter, and everybody's nipples will start to get tingly again, just like they did in draft time. How do you feel about trade? And now, Randy, I know you're going to hate this idea. What about trading him for Tua Tagovailoa? He's coming back. He's got a higher ceiling, but the floor is just one injury from just caving in.
But it's not, though, right? Like we all thought that with this.
Well, I guess that's fair.
It's right. That's what we thought this injury was it.
I mean, here's the thing, and I don't want to turn this into my everlasting love of Sam Darnold, but there's a real world where if JJ McCarthy stays in Minnesota, he could be Jordan Love. It could be year 4. If Sam Darnold takes them to a division title or a playoff game, maybe wins a playoff game, you're going to have a hard time convincing that fan base to get rid of Sam Darnold for free, by the way. He can just walk. He's a street free agent at the end of the year. So I don't mind Tua. I've never been a Tua guy, but when healthy, and this is his first concussion in a year and a half? And I know it's scary because he happens to be the concussion guy that when he gets one, he looks like he's throwing up gang signs on the ground. It's a horrible visual, but I mean, if you're a contender, I don't hate it, but yeah, I wouldn't do that on any other fact, because I think as long as he stays upright, he's going to be really good this year.
Yeah, couple cleanup things, guys. Yeah, Geno Smith is leading the NFL in passing yards by 100 yards. That's a lot. The next guy is Baker Mayfield. So it's and attempts too. He's got he's got more Aaron Rodgers. He's got 25 more attempts than Aaron Rodgers, who has the second most. What you guys just said about Tua, right? But you remember Tua, even though the receivers are good, like Tua wasn't really like great for fantasy. No. Like I said, you just gotta treat JJ, when we're back to this JJ McCarthy thing, like almost like you have like Michael Penix, right? Like who would you rather have, Jerry? Michael Penix on your dynasty roster or JJ McCarthy? Who do you think is going to be worth more in an open market trade right now?
I mean, I think JJ McCarthy is, but I'm also a Penix hater.
Oh, okay. But even your personal feelings on it, who do you think like the market would feel like if who would you get more credit for?
I think it's close, if you want me to be honest, because I think Kirk Cousins has done enough to be the guy, probably.
So is Darnold.
Yeah, 100%. They paid Kirk Cousins a whole hell of a lot more money than Sam Darnold, but also he's not winning as much and he's not doing as well as Sam Darnold. So I hear the argument.
That's what I'm saying.
I think to back up Jerry's point a little bit.
I don't have a take on it, by the way.
No, you're good. You're good, but people are always going to assume Sam Darnold is going to go back to being Sam Darnold, and that the barrier to entry for JJ McCarthy is much smaller than that for Michael Penix. And that's always going to be the assumption because we like Kirko, with the chain, talking about the trap, wearing his hoodie. I love that he blends in with his surroundings, but I would rather have Michael Penix because when he plays, he's going to be, I think he's going to be the better pro. I know he was doing great in camp in unpadded practices, and I respect that. There's still a lot I want to see from JJ McCarthy, and I think I would rather, not by a ton, I'd rather have Michael Penix.
So we're flipping JJ though, if we're a middling team.
Yeah, if I'm contending, if I'm like 4-3, and I've just been like on the wrong end of injury variance, and I'm getting Cooper Kupp back, and I'm getting Jonathan Taylor back, or I'm getting TJ Hawkinson back, or I'm getting Nico Collins back in a couple of weeks. If I'm like and I just need a guy like a Tua, I mean, I think you'd get something plus with Geno Smith back for JJ. Like, could you send Geno in a second? So. Could you send Geno and Geno? Could you get Geno in a second for McCarthy? I don't know.
I'm telling you, I've been in a lot of these trades, and again, every league is different, right? It only takes one person that loves one of the players. But I think if you want to get points now in October, and where JJ is just sitting on the shelf collecting dust, you're probably going to have to give him up. And you might have to, like, I had to do some other pieces too. Like, we all knew Justin Fields is kind of dicey, right? Like, he's probably, who's a good career comparison for him at this point? Like, who's he going to be? I would have said Tyler Huntley a few years ago, right? Who's going to be like the bridge quarterback, who's a backup for, maybe he gets another starter job with a late round rookie on it. Mitch Trubisky from a few years ago. Is that, I don't know.
Ironically, both Bears.
Right.
I think
that's the type of quarterback. Daniel Jones.
I think Fields is going to wind up being the perfect backup for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Take him over. And I was rooting for Fields. I think he was doing fine. I think the Russell Wilson thing is going to come crashing down. I'm not letting one game against him bad. All right.
I hear you, but he looked all right.
I drove you guys off the road though here a little bit. You said for the JJ thing, I think like the best you could hope for is looking at a team that doesn't want to you'd have to probably give him straight up for Geno. I don't think you're going to get A+ on top of that.
Not in season, not in season, but
right.
Maybe it depends on what kind of negotiator you are. I do want to switch to the running back position real quick. Same type of philosophy. Who are some of the running backs, Jerry, that you think right now you can go get in Dynasty for a reasonable price? Because Kareem Hunt,
he's getting all the work. And I know they just brought in DeAndre Hopkins, but outside of DeAndre Hopkins, who's coming into a new system that he's never played in, what kind of mud butt is Patrick Mahomes throwing it to? Juju Smith? Sky Moore? Xavier Worthy's fine, but we see what Xavier Worthy is. He's what Jameson Williams is without the knucklehead. He's good to rip the roof off a couple times, and he can make some explosive plays. Clearly not a part of this offense continuously. Kareem Hunt is the offense right now.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm not relying on him for a long time because Isaiah Pacheco is there. But at what point do we think the hype machine that was Carson Steele, that just floundered? As soon as that got on the track, it just derailed and killed everybody that wanted a piece of it.
And Samaje Perine's a breather back. I'll tell you, the Kareem Hunt success, makes me sad because if he had managed to stay in Kansas City his entire career, the way an Alvin Kamara has stayed in New Orleans, because that's the same draft class, it would have been amazing to see what kind of fantasy points he would have consistently put up. I started to call Alan Theo because Theo's in the chat here live on. He's not a bald brother, so sorry, Theo. We love you and your beautiful hair, but
what's good about Kareem Hunt is he also could be the team's kicker if they need one.
Yeah. I don't have a rim shot. What kind of running backs are you thinking of right now?
Yeah, it's so hard to buy running backs, especially in 2024, because they're doing really well, right? So, go buy Aaron Jones. No, you can't, because the guy wants a first-round pick, The guy's producing. So you have to think really dirty and players that nobody wants. If you just need a running back to plug in your starting lineup and you literally want to spend a third-round pick on one, I'm going to buy Alexander Madison, guys. He's the workhorse running back we thought Zamir White was going to be. He's well over 100 yards last week. He's giving 15 fantasy points a game over the last few weeks here. And they're going to be in garbage time, right? With possibly Desmond Ridder or Gardner Minshew at QB. So it's not pretty. It's not fun to go spend, but it's a third round. If you literally want to get a player for a third round pick, they would say, offer a third for Josh Jacobs or whatever it is. That shit does never happen, right? Never happens. So you got to think dirty. And Madison would be the guy who right now on the season is still an RB2, RB23 on the year.
Jerry, you have another one, or let me give you one?
If I was going to say somebody, it would probably be Najee Harris. He's gotten back-to-back 100 yards and everybody hates him. But also, because he's done well, I just don't trust Dynasty people to go, I want a first now. Because if you think I'm going to pay a first for Najee Harris, you have legalized marijuana in your state and you have indulged in far too much of it. But who do you got?
Tony Pollard. Everybody wanted Tajay Spears to be a thing. In spite of the quarterback play, he is currently in total points, and he's had his bye. So I want to make sure there's that little that little disclaimer. He's RB22, averaging 14 PPR points a game. I don't think you have to give up a first. And he is shown to be quarterback proof in that offense. He's only 27, and he is a guy that I don't think Tennessee goes out and invests further in the running back position this offseason. They've got too many offensive line issues. Man, talk about, and we'll talk about DeAndre Hopkins when we get to wide receivers here in a minute, but talk about a team that's like completely, ever since they traded away A.J. Brown, has been so devoid of really explosive, talented playmakers. So I think that's where they go. I think you can get him for a second now. And if you're a contender, like, and you got a 2-year window to contend, I think Tony Pollard's a great RB3/flex play.
The problem with this stuff, guys, is like nobody's selling for a second and nobody's buying for a first.
Bingo.
Right? So what you have to do is there has to be like another piece of this trade where you're getting the upgrade at running back, but you're giving someone else an upgrade maybe at tight end, right? Where you're giving them Evan Ingram and you're getting back Hunter Henry, right? And then you can get that trade because it's so hard. Like, you know, even the guys at the bottom are like, I'm not doing that, you know? So that's why I was getting into like the buy dirty. And I love the picks of Tony Pollard. Like right now, God, would you buy Travis Etienne right now? Nobody wants him.
No. Chuba's on my list.
I was going to bring up Chuba too, because he's interesting because Jonathan Brooks is coming in, but also Chuba's been good.
But Chuba's going to be a free agent.
Do I think he's just going to fall off the wagon? No, I really don't. I think he's absolutely going to be a focal part of that offense. And now we've got Bryce Young coming back in. Now he was worse with Bryce Young. So we will see what that offense looks like. Hopefully. I
will tell you
pray to the football gods that man has turned it around at least a little bit. At least head me in the right direction.
There's no shot.
I know. Let a brother dream.
Jerry's Lions are going to start because the NFL's not new. These things are not new. Like everybody going crazy for the Shanahan offense, and people who have not watched football or has been on this earth as long as Alan or I, they don't understand that the Shanahan offense was built by Kyle Shanahan. That's what they think, is that Kyle Shanahan built this offense. He didn't. His dad built this offense. Mike, going back to the 70s. Like 50 years ago. All right. This is not new. They add concepts, they add their twist, they add their spin. And just like everything else, music, movies, what's old is new again. And people, including Mel Kiper, bitched about, the too high safety killing the passing game, which it is. You know why Lamar Jackson's throwing 5 bajillion touchdowns a game? They brought in Derrick Henry, and he's smashing people in the mouth, and those safeties can't play too high. You know why the Lions are having so much success? They're using guys like David Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles. Love that nickname, Sonic and Knuckles, Gibbs and Montgomery. But that's the combination I wanted to get to. I think you're going to start seeing more of that Sonic and Knuckles type offense in the NFL. So like a guy like Chuba can be the Knuckles, and a guy like Jonathan Brooks, when he gets healthy, can be the Sonic. I think it's safe to go get a guy like Chuba Hubbard because he's also going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And why in the blue hell would you not get the hell out of Carolina and go to Dallas?
Because of this, if they pay him, right? Hey,
that's the thing.
Yeah, Montgomery and Gibbs remind me a lot of that year that Kamara and Mark Ingram were both RB1s. Like you could start them both, right?
You mean when Dan Campbell was an assistant coach and like the assistant head coach to a guy named Sean Payton? What do you think you're probably going to see in Denver in the not too distant future? Yeah. And what's the NFL do? It's a copycat league, and more teams are going to do it. I think we're going to start seeing a renaissance at the running back position, but we still got a little bit of time because remember, we are on the old 1 hour schedule because right after us, it's the guys over with man versus machine because they're way smarter than me. I would have to be the man. I am not smart enough to be a machine. But if you're looking for a machine, maybe you could use the injury finder.
Hey, you're in your fantasy draft and someone says, hey, that guy's injury prone, I don't want him. And you're like, I don't know. I don't think you can predict injuries. Well, guess what? Now you can. Injury proneness is real. At Player Profiler, we have the data on these players, and it's all in the Injury Finder app. their injury track record back through time, exactly where they were injured, how severe it is. We look at the BMI data and we crunch it all together and we give you probabilities that a player will miss multiple games this NFL season, as well as the complete database of NFL injuries and the ability to compare two players and look at their injury track record. The Injury Finder is powerful, and it's only $5. If it's worth it to have that peace of mind when you're drafting, go get it.
There you go. $5. You know, last week I didn't have it. This week I do. I have a visual aid. One of these, it won't even get you a pack of Zins. It may get you half a Starbucks coffee, but for that right there, for $5, you could get the Injury Finder for a full year.
No one under 30 knows what that piece of paper is, by the way.
It's called cash, and when you need to move in silence, you have to have it. Anyway, we have wide receivers and tight ends to go through, and it feels like wide receivers right now, a lot of guys out. We mentioned Godwin, Evans, Collins, Metcalf. Alan, give me a guy like at the wide receiver position that you that you think could fit this bill of like an injury fueled trade.
Yeah, and by the way, I hate to go backwards, but there are rumors, by the way, that the Rams are also shopping Matthew Stafford. I know that was last segment, but you could see him. You know that guy Jack Settleman on Twitter.
That's another. That's as realistic as the Alvin Kamara trade. I won't file that.
But anyway, so back to wide receiver buys. I mean, look, it's so when an elite wide receiver, right? Jerry knows this. When an elite wide receiver goes down, it's not like you can buy low. You could just buy at the market price, right? Like right now, you cannot buy Justin Jefferson. The cost is too prohibitive. Like, yeah, give me 6 first-round picks. Yeah, right. That's never going to happen. But when he got hurt last year, he was being traded for 2 firsts and Jaden Reed. Like I saw that happen last year. Remember what we thought of Jaden Reed last year? It's not the same as we know him right now. So I think that like, you can't go in and like buy Nico Collins unless like you're giving something, the market price. So that said, I'm not even trying on Nico because, I don't even want to get into those discussions. So is Chris Godwin when that type of injury, I don't know, man. Like I'm a little squeamish about buying these guys, but the one guy who I'm still trying to buy low is Mike Evans, right? I know that just happened, but do you think that the Mike Evans owner would give it to you for a second at this point? Because I tried that before this injury, and he goes, "No, I want it first, and I'm not." I thought that was too high. So Mike Evans, I'm still interested in.
I'll give you a similar scenario. So I'm in a league. Jax Falcone, Scott, he hosts it, and Nate Liss is in this league, and Nate is not contending. I am. I think we start 3 wide receivers if I remember correctly. And I would offer the same thing for Mike Evans as I offered for Devontae Adams. I'm going to give you a second because here's the thing. You're not getting more than a second. If someone gives you a first, God bless you. Congratulations. You did it. Great. Because you're not even getting a second in January. You're not going to do anything.
Yeah, 31 years old.
31 years old. And I'm like, I am renting what could be the last 10 games of his career at the cost of a second round pick. If that's not enough for you, and I was like, sir, I will thank you for your counter. I appreciate your counter. I am going to move in another direction. I'll go try and get a cheap guy like Darnell Mooney,
right,
who is getting targets in a good offense. And I know that Drake London's gonna, because if you're not contending, are you even going to blink an eye when if you see a second in your inbox for Darnell Mooney? You're going to be like, you're going to run and smash your phone trying to accept that deal.
Yeah. Have you guys seen any Brandon Ayuk trades? That's what I was going to ask both of you.
No,
nobody wants him. Nobody wants him.
No, nobody wants him. And like, he's like someone I wouldn't try to sell. I mean,
before he got injured, I offered the guy Ayuk straight up for Evans, and he said no.
See, that's the kind of thing. If again, this is where,
before Evans got injured.
Sure. Yeah, this is where people get too much emotion in there. It's like, and it depends on the status of your roster. If you're not contending and you're in a rebuild, you have to be real honest with yourself. You're talking about a wide receiver who's in year 11 of his deal. Don't let the fantasy points blind you as if this is going to last forever, because that's what people are doing right now with DeAndre Hopkins, and we can kind of veer off into that. I mean, there's a reason why he's going to be on his 4th team in 5 years. It's just like if you're at a bar and you meet a nice young lady or gent, whatever your person, place, or thing is, and they're on their 4th marriage in 5 years. There's a reason. And there's a reason why he went for a 5th round pick. It's just because he's not who he is, but we just can't get past the fact that his name's Mike Evans and he's scoring fantasy points right now.
Well, that's what matters, right, guys? Fantasy points matter.
But fantasy points do matter, but so do selling windows and so do buying windows. I believe that a second for Mike Evans or
now it's cheaper than that. The guy will give you
you're renting 5 games. But I don't know. I'm not going crazy. And then, Jerry, I want to throw a guy to you because you brought him up last week as a diamond in the rough. But he's wide receiver 18 on the season, in spite of the return of Malik Neighbors. And that's Wan'Dale Robinson. What's Wan'Dale Robinson cost you right now?
Not a whole lot, buddy. I mean, a second. Depends.
Oh, I think you're getting him cheaper than that.
Well, I don't know. Not with the production he's been getting. I mean, the target share
and year 3, that's fine.
I mean, 9 targets, 11 targets, 9 targets, 14 targets, 8 targets. Good God! I mean, super cheap guy that you can get for sure.
Yeah, you know what it is. Like, it's not going to just be like straight pick stuff, right? You know, but give me a sec, give me a third. Like if the other guy needs a running back and you have Kareem Hunt, you could probably trade him for Wan'Dale Robinson.
Oh,
right?
100%.
100%.
That's a trade that can happen. If you have, so I think when you get into these guys that that aren't injured, because you were bringing up Wan'Dale, who's producing, but nobody really likes him. No one wants to pay for him. No one wants to sell him. You got to find someone that has the positional need. So.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. And it's odd that the veteran wide receivers are the ones still putting up points. And I think you could have got him cheaper before you saw the touchdown with Josh Allen. But Amari Cooper's another guy that I have on this list. And the guy that he replaced, I have Stephon Diggs on this list. Stephon Diggs is a top 8 wide receiver right now, and people are kind of not. He's different than Adams and Evans in that he's like very polarizing, and he makes you feel some sort of way. I think you can get him a little bit cheaper.
How does the TikTok hook go? Stephon Diggs is a wide receiver 1, and nobody cares. That's how they do it on TikTok.
It's as if nobody even cares.
Right, you got it. You nailed it.
That is exact. That is
a TikTok hook.
I think it's very young millennial.
Oh yeah.
Or I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Or Gen Z.
How old are you, Jerry? How old a guy are you?
I'm 36.
36. There you go.
I'm putting it on like a specific generation, but Alan's right. It is really more of a fantasy content creator thing. It's very much. It's like during like the preseason. It's so-and-so's going in round 8, and it's as if no one even cares.
Right. It's a Twitter. You know what someone once told me
social
about
media?
Yeah, about content, guys. Someone said, good hook, average content, goes viral. Average hook, great content, does okay. You got to have that good hook. Doesn't matter what the content's like. That's what I mean, if you're talking about if you're chasing views, right? Obviously, you want great hook, great content, but the point was you got those disgusting social media hooks. They do matter.
Any other wide receivers before we move into the most ugly position in fantasy football? Jerry?
Any interest in trading for players that have been poop?
Yeah.
Like
Jalen Waddle comes to mind.
I mean, let me ask you this: Would you give a contenders first? Like it's gonna with a little bit of luck.
Waddle, yes, I would.
Would you give up like what would be the 110 through 112? Because hopefully that's where you're going to wind up if you're a contender.
Absolutely,
that's the mission. You think you get that done? And if so, do you have about 4 days to do it before we get to Sunday?
I think
and
you've
Tua
got
is
about
back?
4 days. It might even be too late because we know Tua is coming back, which is unfortunate. That you needed to shit or get off the pot, and we were sitting on the toilet for a little too long.
Right. Well, buying low means running into a burning building, right, Jerry? Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, it's the Warren Buffett last puff of the cigar. If you've never heard of this philosophy, it's like just Google it. Warren Buffett last puff of the cigar. You'll get the gist of what we're talking about. It's like you're trying to get that last little bit of usage out of something with these veterans. Did you have anyone else in mind?
Yeah, I just think that concept of buying when it's uncomfortable. That's why I brought up Travis Etienne, right? Like Doug Peterson had already said, he's old school. Guys can't lose their jobs to injury. Like he said that in a press conference. So if you believe him, now's the time to buy Travis Etienne if you need a running back because nobody wants him. It's a burning building, right? I don't want Travis Etienne. I can't get anything for him in a trade. I've tried to trade him for, just go down the list for DJ Moore, for Terry McLaurin. Like nobody wants Travis Etienne. So when you talk about like wide receivers, the Ayuk one was the one I wanted to ask you guys about because I can't get any bites on the couple Ayuks I have. Like everyone's like, he's never even going to come close to like the keep trade cut top 15 ever again, even when he comes back, right? Like he was wide receiver 12 the whole season. It's so crazy how it works.
I may have to go out and throw out some low ball offers on Brandon Ayuk because
what's a low ball offer?
2 seconds.
See, Randy's a cheap ass too. So
if you're contending and I'll offer you Darnell Mooney in a second.
Yeah, how about Shaheed, guys? I hear what you're saying. You're on point, right? Where that's what it is. 2 seconds. It's a Wandell in a second. Shaheed, you said Mooney in a second. I think that's the right area. But Shaheed's the other one, right, guys? Like the injured guy. Are you going after Shaheed at all?
What do you got? I've never been a Rashid Shaheed guy, but also he's made me look stupid. So like me personally, no, but I'm not going to be upset if somebody does. I see why you would do it, and it is probably a good play.
To me, he's the kind of, to a degree, similar to Darnell Mooney. He's the kind of wide receiver 3 or the last flex that I hit submit my lineup on because I know there's a real world where he may give me 7 points, but I also know there's a world where he wins my week for me.
Yeah, and Will Fuller, right?
Yeah, that's the kind of guy that it's
how dare you bring that name on?
How dare you besmirch the good name of
who's like Will Fuller is Jameson Williams, really, right? Like suspension.
If he could stay healthy,
that's Will Fuller.
Yeah, that's why it's a very apropos comparison. Let's spend a few minutes on tight ends because I think the slam dunk number one, go get him before the TikTok aggregators. It's as if people didn't know Cade Otton was the tight end 9 on the season.
It's like nobody cares.
It's like nobody cares. He's tight end 8. Excuse me, tight end 9 on the season. By the way, I noticed this the other day as I was getting ready for this show. I was putting together the show sheet. If I'd have told you guys 2 months ago, so if I had told you guys on August 23rd as opposed to October 23rd that, hey, we're going to be 7 games into the season and Cade Otton's going to have double the receptions and same number of touchdowns as Sam Laporta season to date, you'd have told me I was smoking crack or you told me I was full of shit. And but yet here we are. And do we think those targets and receptions are going to go up or down with both Godwin and Mike Evans hurt? I think eventually the is as if you don't care crowd will get on this one, but I think Cade Otton is a smoking buy right now, especially in tight end premium.
Here, I'll frame it like this, and I'll pose what you just said there to Jerry. I'll say, Jerry, what player on the Tampa Bay Bucks is going to have the most receptions from here until week 18?
Rashad White.
Okay. What non-running back is going to have the most receptions?
Probably Cade Otton.
There you go.
It's not like he earned them. I mean,
you yucked my yum with the Rashad White.
I had to. I'm also a Rashad White guy, so I had to. But no, do I think Jalen McMillan's going to do it? No, I don't. Do I think Trey Palmer's going to do it? No, absolutely not.
And we've seen Baker lean on the tight end position before, going clear back to college when he leaned on Mark Andrews.
He's done it with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
He's got 27 catches.
Why would I think it's going to get lower now? Like, there's just absolutely no shot.
Memphis, it's a good call out. That's actually a real buy, right? Like, the Cade Otton manager also has Mark Andrews on his team. He also has Travis Kelce. He's looking to trade him, or he's looking to trade the other one, but he hasn't. The Cade Otton was like tight end 20 or 15 in ADP. So he has another tight end.
You have a little bit of time. It just kind of stinks to be going after him now with both the injury news and him coming off of his best game of the season. I think he had 9 catches for 80 yards or 8 catches for 90 yards. He had a really nice game. I think you can get him Zach Ertz especially if Jaden Daniels isn't going to miss a lot of time, but he actually had his best game of the season. If you're looking for a loner, if you're looking for someone to plug in on a week in, week out basis until Sam Laporta gets his shit straight, which, by the way, with Jameson Williams not playing, I think you could see a bit of target coming back to Laporta. But I don't think Zach Ertz is the world's worst buy if you're looking for 10 games.
Otten or Kincaid rest of season, guys?
I'm going to go Otten. And I know Theo's not going to want to hear it because that's Theo's boy.
I mean, I think I'm still Kincaid because they're similar, right? They've probably got about the same stats, I would guess. But one of them has been disappointing and one of them has been at their ceiling. So at some point, I have to assume water meets its level.
Well, one of them for the next week 8 through week 12 is going to be competing for targets with Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer if he's healthy.
Fair.
Whereas Dalton Kincaid is going to be competing with Knox and Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper and Khalil Shakur and the running backs. I think I'd rather have Cade Otton.
Yeah. Do you think that Tampa could be the Cooper Kupp team?
It's a good spot though. If he does end up, I know that's going to piss Randy off because he's ready to build a loner Cooper Kupp. But
first of all, when I first started doing content in 2016, this was like the first draft class that I really covered was 2017. Cooper Kupp was my first ever smash it out of the park. I nailed this pick. I argued with people on Cooper Kupp. Like, I just thought he had the goods. So I of course, but if you're a Cooper Kupp fan, outside of the fact that he'd be playing on natural grass as opposed to turf, I'm totally fine with him going to play with Baker in that offense.
And this is also the whole Liam Cohen thing. Like, he was supposed to make Chris Godwin the Cooper Kupp role, right?
And he was.
Who better to replace him than the actual guy?
Yeah, you can go out and get the guy, or you can go out and get the guy. And gang, we had the guy. We had Alan Seslowsky on with us. And want to thank everybody for all the interaction in the chat. This is 2 weeks in a row, and maybe we just had a really good guest, or maybe the show's picking up steam on YouTube and Twitter. But Alan, how many shows are you putting out a week? And I know you're doing a ton of behind the scenes stuff, but I need to get on a podcast with you. You need to get Jerry on Rotowire.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. I was saying that even before you invited me. I was like, I have Memphis on every year. Jerry, when I start my podcast up in the off season again, you are definitely coming on. And when we don't have guests on the radio on that Sunday show, but when I sub in there to me, I love listening to Jerry. You have a great co-host here in Memphis. I think the world. I'm not just saying that. I really genuinely, I love this show that you guys do. Jerry just chills, does his thing, man. You guys are a good duo. You really got it. So I hope selfishly you keep this podcast going, and 100% we'll get Jerry involved in some of the stuff we're doing over Rotowire. I'm a fan.
We're damn near 1,000 episodes of this show. So it's safe to say that he's not getting rid of me, but also
you never know.
I want to run something back real quick. I said Cooper Kupp was the best diamond in the rough that I ever hit on. It was actually Jerry.
He says that, but I haven't read a show sheet in 5 years. I don't show up on time. I don't help him edit.
It's like your wife. You love them in spite of their flaws.
Well, Jerry, with talent comes tolerance.
Yes,
like you're like Antonio Brown. Like you can,
yes, yeah. When Antonio Brown,
the nicest and worst thing anyone's ever said to me.
Yeah, it's like podcasting's like any other performance-based business.
I know time is short. 20 seconds. How did you guys meet?
We both worked worked with a company called Dynasty Football Factory. And, this was back when it was almost like the NWO. It was like everybody was clicked up. You were running with, DFF or DLF or the Podfather really hadn't blown up. He was really just starting to, start his brand. And it was like 2 or 3, and it was like gang warfare. And Jerry and I happened to be on the DFF side. And the guys who originally hosted this podcast, all 3 of them left. I was like the Kato Kalin. I just made it long enough. I won by attrition. They just left. And then it was me and the guy who was running the DFF at the time was like, well, you're going to need a co-host. And I talked to a bunch of guys on the phone, and I talked to Jerry, and I was just like, that guy's got it.
Yep, I agree. He's a talent.
you just see it. It's like you watch Andrew Luck as a rookie, and you know he had it. You listen to Carrie Underwood sing on American Idol, you knew she had it. Talking to Jerry Sinclair for the first hour or whatever, I knew he had it.
You guys
Jerry,
are
just,
so
Jerry, just close your Zoom window. We're going to talk about you for 15
Yeah,
minutes.
we're going to
If
talk
anything, I look like Andrew Luck looks now. That's about the only
Right.
thing.
You got to
I've
get that
got
neck
compared to
beard
him.
going a little bit there, kid.
Oh, I grow a wicked neck beard.
Well, I don't know when. It could be next week, could not be next week, but we're gonna get Theo Grimminger on this podcast. He says he's game to come on. He's not said which Wednesday, but we're gonna have Theo come on with us.
Yeah, that's Jerry's taking that day off.
Yeah, obviously. As
Jerry's
is
like,
tradition.
he goes Caddyshack. He's like, I'd love to do that podcast, but I got a thing. And we got a thing too. We got to get up out of here because we've got the guys. We've got Bradley, and I believe it's Dan tonight. Bradley Stalder and Dan Williamson. They're doing man versus machine.
Did Dan get a new microphone yet?
God, I hope so.
I love Dan, but I can't hear a fucking word he's saying.
There's the New York accent. I love that.
With Dan Williamson, it's good people, bad equipment.
There you go. The new segment.
I know he's the richest damn guy on the network.
Exactly. Your net worth is way too high. You play in way too many $1,500 FFPC leagues for that microphone.
Right, but he uses like the old Apple Pods with the mic right here thing, you know?
Yeah,
the mic on the wire.
We got to get you as the technology guy to get him on the horn and help him straighten it out. But we'll straighten you guys out next week. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back. Thank you to Alan. Please follow him everywhere and support Rotowire. But until next week, remember, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. I'll be back next week. Jerry and Theo, TBD.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.